Welcome in, everybody, to another week of First Seed Fantasy. I am Kyle Krajewski, joined by Mike Del Corso and Dante Botts. Gentlemen, how are we this week?
Can't
Doing
complain.
good.
Can't complain.
Love
Doing
to
good.
hear it. Love to hear it. We've got week 6 coming up. We're going to talk some start sits, some boom busts, basically guys that we are looking into have a great week, or guys that we are just not expecting big things from this week. Let's just roll right into it. I'll kick us off here with my start of the week, my boom. That is good old running back for the Minnesota Vikings, Alexander Madison. So far this season, he's been okay. Currently the RB19 on the season. However, they are playing the Chicago Bears this week. And prior to last week against a Washington Commanders team that they just dominated, the Bears have given up an average of 20.2 fantasy points to Aaron Jones, Rashad White, Jerick McKinnon, Isaiah Pacheco, and Jaleel McLaughlin. So, I mean, you throw in Alexander Madison with the Minnesota Vikings team that is probably going to shift to a more run central focus in this offense because they are the most pass heavy team so far this season. And now you get a team that no longer has Justin Jefferson and won't have him this week for sure. He's on IR. They kind of have to run a little bit more. So you kind of throw in a little bit of Madison. He finally gets things going in the ground game and most likely catches a few more passes. So I'm going Madison. I think his presence on this team stays stagnant or stays solid at least, more than the 51% we saw last week, and see a great game. Great game this week against Chicago.
I love it. Madison is definitely going to be in my lineups, as well as my start of the week, which is going to be Scary Terry. Scary's been getting a lot of hate lately. He is currently getting outperformed on the year by Curtis Samuel, which is a little bit concerning for fantasy owners, considering they were drafted many, many rounds apart. But I love McLaurin in a bounce back week, I think, against Atlanta. He kind of went quiet last week. Atlanta has been giving up points to receivers this year sneakily, and they've also played some really bad teams. Atlanta started off playing Carolina and Green Bay. It still gave up points to the receivers and tight ends in those matchups, but not the greatest passing teams, as we've seen. Gave up a monster day to Amon-Ra St. Brown in week 3, and week 4 went over to London and still gave up big games to Kirk, Zay Jones, who sprinkled in a little bit, and even Calvin Ridley had a slight dent. So I think this is a bounce back week. They're showing bad matchup against the Atlanta Falcons at home. I don't think it's a bad matchup at all. I just think the stats show otherwise because Atlanta's played some pretty bad football teams. So Scary Terry to the moon, especially in those two wide receiver lineups. I think you could squeak them in this week. I have him currently as my wide receiver 24 on the week, which perfectly puts him there as a wide receiver too. So Scary Terry for me.
Mike, I do want to point out that Zay Jones did not face the Falcons. He was out that week. However, Calvin Ridley had an 11-point game, 11.8-point game.
With that
And
touchdown. That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
And Christian Kirk had 16 points. So 2 solid outings from those two guys, and now you get Scary Terry.
Yeah, and the only thing they really have to worry about is AJ Terrell in terms of the Falcons' defense, whether he shadows Terry McLaurin that much. But going on to my starter, I'm going to go with Jaleel McLaughlin from the running back for the Broncos. Kind of a shining star in that offense so far this season, and what looks like to be one of the worst offenses in the league. Shout out to Russ, unfortunately, but as far as Jalil goes, he gets work in the passing game. Clearly, he got a touchdown in the past 2 games, and he's kind of carving out his own role in the running game as well. 7 attempts for 72 yards. He averaged 10 yards per game against Chicago, and 7 yards per game, 7.5 against the Jets. So. I only expect his role to be larger as the season gets pushing forward excuse me. As the season gets pushing forward, I expect his role to be bigger. And yeah, I'm going with Jalil this week.
Beautiful. Love Jalil. Dude is killing it. And I think you're right. I think even with Javante returning, I think Jalil's got his role in this offense. Hey everyone, before we get into sits for the week, I do just want to highlight our good partners over at Rival Fantasy, which is a really cool new take on fantasy football, or just a new way to play some fantasy as the NFL season rolls on. If you use our code FIRSTSEED or use the link in our description and sign up for an account, make a deposit, you get a 100% deposit match up to $100. So you put in $20, you get a free $20 to play around with as well. Plus a free $25 voucher. So you can use that $25 to just play wherever you'd like. So for example, let me just highlight a little bit of fun that Rival offers and highlight Fantasy Bingo. So this is a card that I had last week. You basically put together a DFS style roster, but you're not within the confines of a salary. You just kind of pick your team: a quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, tight end, kicker, and a flex. And then you are assigned a random bingo board up to however many cards that you like to buy. And you kind of hope that your team fills out that bingo board as the week goes on. So this one's a loser, but for example, this roster, this card had over 150 total yards for a wide receiver. A tight end fumbled. QB had an interception, or RB had over 50 rushing yards. And this isn't like a combined, my RBs had 50 rushing. One running back had 50 plus. A receiver had over 100 receiving yards. But you get the gist. At least I hope. You get this bingo board, and you hope that your team gives you a bingo. And for example, I'll show here of the prize pool that kind of generates as the week approaches, which is like if you buy it, you add on to that prize pool. Yeah, 56% of that goes to a diagonal winner, vertical, or you basically make 5 tiles in a row, vertical, horizontal, diagonally, or you get a tile, you get the postcard in any 4 corner, and you just you build that roster, make it a good one, and then you hope that you can get a bingo. So just wanted to highlight that. That is Fantasy Bingo on Rival Fantasy. Use code FIRSTSEED. Give it a shot. You get a free $25 voucher with your first deposit. And have fun. Now let's see those sits. On to sits. My sit of the week. Good old running back, Dameon Pierce. Dude has been incredibly mediocre at running back. He's currently the RB24 on the season. Last week, found himself with 9.2 fantasy points due to a severe lack of production, kind of on the ground, but also just not being used in the passing game at all. And he's killing it. Stroud is killing it in the air. And I mean, this week he faces a Saints defense that is just being very tough for fantasy running backs. We saw Ramondre Stevenson basically put up a complete dud last week, and I don't see that changing for Dameon Pierce. So I'm not expecting a huge week for Pierce. If you can, sit him, but I understand you kind of drafted him in a spot where you may not have better opportunities to start above him, but I'm not looking forward to Pierce's outlook this week.
Yeah, another guy that's kind of on that fringe for me, so I like the sit there. Going into my sit this week is going to be another disappointing high draft pick, Jerry Jeudy. Most of you guys have probably drafted him if you're in a 12-team league, right around weeks or around 5 through 7, right in that range. And he's kind of been underperforming this year. Last year, especially at the end of the year, you had a slight absence with Courtland Sutton, where Jeudy was seeing double-digit targets for some games. And everybody kind of expected that to carry over, including myself, just based off of pure talent. Sean Payton coming over, you think the situation's going to get better. It really hasn't been that way to start the year. And now you got rumors as of today that the Broncos are willing to just clean house, start fresh, start selling. So a lot of stuff going on in Denver there. Jerry Jeudy's not going to be one of my starts. They play a Kansas City team who has given up some points to receivers. But Jerry Jeudy, even last year, only put up 10 points against them in the second matchup. And in that first matchup, did go absolutely insane. But Jerry Jeudy for me is going to be a sit this week. It's not a great matchup. It's not a great situation right now. The offense is struggling, and I think that they'll rely on the run game against the Chiefs to get them in that ball game on hopefully what I think is going to be a low-scoring Thursday night. So I'm sitting Jeudy.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm staying away from pretty much everyone on this offense outside of Jalil, I think, going forward. But as far as my set, I'm going to go with a pretty controversial one here and say Jonathan Taylor. At least this is one of those picks where, it may seem like questionable at first, but he's just the guy that, number one, 15% snap share. The coaches said that they're going to try and ease him into the system again. And that's going to take a couple of weeks because of Zach Moss. I think that Zach Moss, has been playing out of his mind recently. He's been playing like Jonathan Taylor. And I don't see any reason why they would want to get away from that level of production, at least until he shows signs of it decreasing. So it's more of I just don't think the coaches are ready to fully unleash him yet. I mean, we've seen teams kind of hold the leash a little with their running backs. I mean, you can look at Breece Hall as an example. Yeah. I mean, that was injury as well. But yeah, so I think with Zach Moss playing the way he is, I'm okay being wrong until he proves me right. I mean, and I'm okay being hesitant until he proves me wrong, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Hey, I like it. And you're kind of thinking the opposite with McLaughlin there. Like he's Denver Zach Moss, that he's the hot hand right now, even with Javonte coming back. So I like the way you're thinking there.
Yeah, it's going to be, man, these next few weeks are going to be tricky in Indy. You don't have Anthony Richardson, and you've got one running back that is killing it, another one that is coming back from an injury, and that backfield is going to be a journey, to say the least, for the next few weeks. And
they re-signed Zach Moss too this week too. This past week, didn't they?
Jonathan Taylor
after that game.
Oh, Moss?
No, Zach Moss. Yeah,
that I did not see.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that I'm unsure of. I know that he did receive an extension at some point during this year. I'm not sure exactly when it was.
He made that statement and dipped because
Dante just dropped the mic on us there.
Zach Moss did not get signed this past week.
He did not. Yeah, I think he might have been in the off season or something.
Yeah, I'm seeing August 1st. He got a good
right
contract, but nothing.
Yeah,
nothing in the past week. But as Dante makes his return to the recording, we'll run back through these starts and sits. Start 1, Alexander Madison. Start 2, Scary Terry McLaurin. Start 3, Julian McLaughlin. And sit 1, Damian Pierce. Sit 2, Jerry Jeudy. And sit 3, Jonathan Taylor. It was a pleasure. And now, as Dante tries to make his way back onto screen, let's get to our game picks.
Let's do it. Got some nice ones this week. I'm confident in all 3 of these.
All right. I'm going to kick us off. Dante, you can go last if you're even here. I'm going to not go bold. I'm going to go Chicago plus 2.5. We see a Chicago team that got their first win, and I think they're going to take that and just brush the losing jokes off their shoulders and just be like, all right, we got something here. They're going against a Minnesota team that has been struggling, and they just lost their best player. So give me the Bears plus 2.5. I kind of really enjoy that. Enjoy that line.
I love it. if that game turns into a run game, I think Minnesota is going to struggle. So I like it. And I'm going to add on second leg of that parlay. Go ahead and add the Indianapolis Colts +4. So yeah, I was on the verge of going money line or +4 on this one, but I think +4 is the right play, especially if you're going to parlay it. If you're going big, go solo and bet the Colts money line. But I'm going Colts +4. Jacksonville just played 2 games straight in London. They're finally coming back home. And as Kyle pointed out, this is the first time that Jacksonville will be playing in London and not following it up with a bye. So I think that there's going to be some reconfiguration going on with the Jaguars. I don't think they're going to be playing their best football this weekend. And as Dante pointed out, right now Indianapolis' backfield is rolling. So if they're going to be able to run the ball, I think Gardner Minshew is better than people give him credit for as a backup. I think the Colts take care of business. I think they get the win, but I'm going to go ahead and go with the +4. I think it's a nice compliment to that first leg that Kyle added on there. So, Dante, give us that third leg, man. What's the third leg of this?
Yeah, sorry about that technical difficulty. I didn't definitely didn't to back out of the channel and just use my own search engine. But anyways, I'm gonna go with Philly -7 against the Jets. This seems pretty clear cut to me. I don't believe in Zach Wilson. I don't think anyone does at this point, and he's going against one of the best defenses in the league. So they just lost. The Jets just lost their best offensive lineman as well, and going against Jalen Carter and that defense, I just don't think they really stand a chance, to be honest. Even Brees Hall, I mean, you start him, but I wouldn't expect, the same level of production you got last week. So that whole offense is going against just great D, and I don't think they're going to succeed.
Great line of thinking. Put those 3 into a parlay. Chicago +2.5, Indy +4, Philadelphia -7. We'll see you back here next week. Thank you for tuning in.